A woman walked into a bakery on a Tuesday morning. Her clothes were worn. Her shoes had holes in them. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. She walked up to the counter where the baker, a man named Robert Chen who owned the shop for 20 years, was arranging fresh croissants in the display case. She took a deep breath and asked him something that made Robert's hands go completely still. "Do you have any expired cakes? Any that you were going to throw away? I'll take them. Any flavor. Any condition. I need a cake for my daughter's birthday." Robert looked at her face. He saw something there that changed everything. And what he discovered next would teach him a lesson about kindness that he would never forget. If this story touches your heart the way it's touched millions of people around the world, please smash that like button right now. And make sure you subscribe to this channel because we share stories like this every single day. Stories about real people showing real compassion in a world that sometimes forgets how to care. Let's get into it. Introducing the characters and the setting. The bakery was called Sweet Dreams Bakery, and it had been on Maple Street for 23 years. It was the kind of place where regulars came in every morning to get their coffee and a fresh pastry, where children pressed their faces against the glass to look at the decorated cakes in the display window, where birthday parties were celebrated and weddings were planned. Robert Chen had opened the bakery with his wife, Maria, when they were young and full of dreams. Maria had been the creative one, the artist who designed the beautiful cakes. Robert was the business person who made sure everything ran smoothly. They made a perfect team. For 15 years, they worked side by side. Then Maria got sick. Cancer. She fought hard, but after 2 years, she was gone. Robert never remarried. He poured all his energy into the bakery because it kept him connected to Maria. Every cake he made felt like a small piece of her living on. After Maria died, Robert made a decision. He decided that no child would ever have to go without a birthday cake because their family couldn't afford it. So he started a quiet program. Every day, cakes that weren't sold would be donated to the local shelter. Pastries that were about to expire would go to food banks. Cookies that were a day old would be given to kids in the neighborhood for free. Nobody knew about this. Robert never advertised it. He just did it quietly, the way Maria would have wanted. Robert was now 62 years old. He had kind eyes and gentle hands that had spent 4 decades working with flour and sugar and butter. His hair was mostly gray now, tied back in a small ponytail. He wore the same white baker's apron every day, and it was stained with memories of thousands of cakes. He loved his job, even though he was tired sometimes. Even though he missed Maria every single day. Even though running a bakery in the modern world, with big chain stores opening up everywhere, was getting harder and harder. On this particular Tuesday morning, Robert had been in the bakery since 3 a.m., as he was every day. He'd prepared fresh bread. He'd baked dozens of croissants. He'd made 3 custom cakes for customers picking them up later that day. He was standing behind the counter, organizing the display, when the door chimed. The woman who walked in looked like she was carrying the weight of the entire world on her shoulders. Her name was Jennifer Martinez, though Robert didn't know that yet. She was 34 years old, but she looked older. Much older. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun, not because it was stylish, but because she didn't have time to do anything else with it. She was wearing a faded blue jacket over a nurse's uniform. Her shoes, white canvas shoes that had seen better days, were worn through on the heel. Jennifer had been awake for 24 hours straight. She'd worked a double shift at the hospital. In the emergency room. 12 hours helping people. Then another 12 hours working at a 24-hour convenience store on the other side of town. She had a 2-hour break, and she'd spent an hour of it trying to find a solution to an impossible problem. Today was her daughter's birthday. Her daughter's name was Sophie, and she was turning 8 years old today. Sophie was the light of Jennifer's life. Despite everything, despite the struggle, despite the poverty, despite the fact that Jennifer was working 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads, Sophie was happy. Sophie was kind. Sophie was brilliant. And today was supposed to be special. But Jennifer had woken up that morning to realize that she had $43 in her bank account. $43 to last until Friday. And she'd already spent $50 on rent this month that she didn't have, trying to keep their apartment. $50 she'd borrowed from a friend who could barely spare it. She couldn't afford a cake. She couldn't afford a birthday party. She couldn't afford decorations or balloons or anything special. But Sophie didn't ask for much. Sophie never complained. Sophie understood, in the way that kids sometimes understand things they shouldn't have to understand, that her mother was struggling. So Jennifer was going to make Sophie a birthday dinner tonight. Spaghetti with jarred sauce, garlic bread, and maybe, just maybe, if she was very careful, she could save enough money to buy a small cupcake from the grocery store. Then, as Jennifer was getting ready for work, her neighbor, a kind woman named Mrs. Chen who worked as a teacher, had said something to her. You know what? My family used to own a bakery. The owner was a wonderful man. He always gave away cakes that weren't sold. Maybe if you ask nicely, he might have something. A cake they were going to throw away anyway. It's worth asking. Sometimes kindness still exists in the world. So that's why Jennifer was here. She walked up to the counter, her heart pounding. She felt embarrassed. She felt ashamed. She felt like she was about to ask for charity, and she hated asking for anything. But she thought about Sophie's face. She thought about how her daughter never complained, even though she had so little. She thought about how Sophie loved cake more than anything in the world, but had never had a real birthday cake because Jennifer could never afford one. And she asked the question that would change everything. Do you have any expired cakes? Any that you were going to throw away? I'll take them. Any flavor. Any condition. I just need a cake for my daughter's birthday. Robert Chen looked up from the croissants he was arranging. He looked at this woman's face, and in that moment, he saw something that made him stop everything. He saw exhaustion, but not the kind of exhaustion that comes from laziness. He saw the exhaustion that comes from fighting, from working hard, from never giving up even when things are impossible. He saw shame, but not the kind of shame that deserves judgment. He saw the kind of shame that comes from being poor in a world that doesn't think poor people deserve nice things. He saw love. The kind of love that only a mother has for her child. The kind of love that makes you willing to ask for help even though asking breaks your heart. And he froze, building tension and emotional connection. For a moment, Robert didn't say anything. He just stared at Jennifer, and his eyes filled with tears. The woman in front of him didn't understand his reaction. She thought maybe he was offended. Maybe he thought she was being rude. Maybe. I'm sorry, Jennifer said quickly. I didn't mean to. I know it's a weird question. I shouldn't have asked. I'm sorry. I'll just. No, Robert said, holding up a hand. His voice was gentle. Don't leave. Please. I'm sorry. Let me help you. What's your name? Jennifer, she said quietly. Jennifer Martinez. Jennifer, Robert repeated, as if he was trying to memorize it. And your daughter's name? Sophie. She's turning 8 today. Robert smiled, and it was the kind of smile that came from somewhere deep inside. From a place that understood loss. From a place that understood struggle. You know what, he said. I don't have any expired cakes. But I have something better. I have a fresh cake. It came out of the oven 2 hours ago. It's a chocolate cake with chocolate frosting. I made 3 of them today for customers, but one of the customers called and canceled this morning. So I have it. And I want your daughter to have it. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. I can't pay for that. I really can't. That's why I asked for the expired ones. I thought. Jennifer, Robert said, and he came around from behind the counter. I lost my wife 11 years ago. She used to make the most beautiful cakes. She believed that everyone deserved to have beauty in their lives, no matter how poor they were. She believed that a birthday cake isn't a luxury. It's a celebration of life. It's a way of saying, you matter. Your day matters. He looked Jennifer directly in the eyes. So I'm going to give you this cake. And I'm not going to accept any money for it. Because my wife would want me to. Because somewhere, I think she's watching, and she'd be proud that I remembered what she taught me. Jennifer started crying. She tried to hold it back, but she couldn't. The tears just came. Years of struggle. Years of working hard and never having enough. Years of being strong for her daughter, of never letting Sophie see how scared she was, how desperate things sometimes felt. I can't, she whispered. I can't accept charity. It's not charity, Robert said gently. It's kindness. There's a difference. Charity is when you do something because you feel like you have to. Kindness is when you do something because you want to. Because you believe in the person. I believe in you, Jennifer. I can see that you love your daughter. I can see that you work hard. I believe in what you're doing. He walked to the back of the bakery and came out with a beautiful chocolate cake. It was decorated perfectly. Fresh berries on top. Chocolate shavings around the edge. A simple but elegant design. It was the kind of cake that would make any 8-year-old girl feel special. This is yours, Robert said, placing it carefully in a box. And I have something else. He went to the refrigerated case and pulled out a small container of homemade ice cream, vanilla bean, his own recipe. For the cake, he said. You can't have birthday cake without ice cream. Jennifer was shaking. She didn't know what to say. She'd expected to be turned down. She'd been prepared for that rejection. She'd prepared herself for the disappointment of having to tell Sophie that they'd have to make do with a grocery store cupcake. But instead, she was standing here with a real, beautiful, perfect birthday cake. There's one more thing, Robert said. He reached under the counter and pulled out a box of birthday candles. For making a wish. Jennifer took everything with trembling hands. Why are you doing this? She asked. You don't know me. Robert leaned against the counter and looked at her with eyes that had seen a lot of sadness in life, but had also learned to see the beauty in people. Because my wife taught me that kindness is the most important thing we can do in this world, he said. Because I see someone who is struggling, but not giving up. Someone who loves their child enough to ask for help even though it's hard. Someone who deserves to see their daughter's face light up on her birthday. He paused. And because, Jennifer, we never know when we're going to get another chance to show kindness. We never know when that might be the last birthday cake we ever get to help make possible. So I don't wait. I do it now. Jennifer left the bakery holding the cake like it was the most precious thing in the world. Because to her, it was. Karma or the big reveal. Justice and emotional resolution. That evening, Sophie came home from school. She was wearing her school uniform and a flower crown that she'd made from paper. She was humming a song she'd learned in music class. Happy birthday, baby, Jennifer said, trying to keep the excitement out of her voice, trying not to give away the surprise. Thanks, Mom, Sophie said. She didn't expect much. She was 8 years old, but she understood poverty. She understood that her mother was struggling. She'd never demanded anything. She was always grateful for what she had. Jennifer led her daughter to the small dining room table, which she'd decorated with drawings that Sophie had made at school. She'd taped them to the wall to make it look festive. She'd made the spaghetti. She'd made the garlic bread. And then she brought out the cake. Sophie's entire face changed. Mom! She whispered. Mom, is that a real cake? It's a real cake, baby, Jennifer said, tears streaming down her face now. She didn't even try to hide them anymore. For my real daughter on her real birthday. Sophie just stared at it. She couldn't speak. She couldn't move. She just looked at that beautiful chocolate cake like it was the most amazing thing she'd ever seen. Make a wish, Jennifer said, placing the candles on top and lighting them. 8 candles, flickering in the little apartment. Sophie closed her eyes tight. She made a wish. Jennifer would never know what it was, but she suspected it was something simple. Something pure. Something that only an 8-year-old girl who'd learned not to want too much could wish for. When they cut into the cake, Sophie took her first bite, and she looked up at her mother with joy radiating from her entire being. This is the best cake I've ever had, she said. I know, baby, Jennifer whispered. I know. But the story doesn't end there. 2 weeks later, Jennifer was working her shift at the hospital. She was tired, as usual. Her feet hurt, as usual. She was worried about money, as usual. She was taking care of a patient, an elderly woman who'd been admitted with a heart condition. The woman's name was Mrs. Chen. She was Robert's mother. Jennifer didn't know this. She was just doing her job, being kind to a patient, checking on her regularly, making sure she was comfortable. On Mrs. Chen's last day in the hospital, before she was discharged, she called Jennifer over. "Come here," Mrs. Chen said. "Sit with me for a moment." Jennifer sat down. She didn't have much time. She was busy with other patients, but something in Mrs. Chen's voice made her stop. "My son Robert told me about you," Mrs. Chen said. "He told me that you asked him for an expired cake for your daughter's birthday. And he told me how hard you work, how much you love your child." Jennifer felt embarrassed. She didn't want to be known as the poor woman who asked for expired cake. "I want to tell you something," Mrs. Chen continued. "My son is a good man. His wife was a wonderful woman. When she died, I thought my son would stop believing that good things could happen. But he didn't. He kept believing in kindness. And then you came into his bakery, and you reminded him why kindness matters." Mrs. Chen took Jennifer's hand. "I'm 87 years old. I don't have much time left on this earth. But I have some money saved up. Money that I've been trying to figure out what to do with. And I've decided. I'm going to help you, Jennifer. I'm going to help you finish nursing school." Jennifer's hands went cold. "What?" "Robert told me you were going to nursing school. That you were working 2 jobs and going to school at night. That you want to become a registered nurse so you can give Sophie a better life. Well, I'm going to pay for it. Not all of it. You need to do your part too. But I'm going to help." Jennifer couldn't speak. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't process what was happening. "Why?" was all she could manage. "Because," Mrs. Chen said gently, "you reminded my son what his wife taught him. And that's the most valuable thing anyone could do. You gave my son back his faith in kindness. So let me give you a chance. Let me give Sophie a chance." The news spread. Robert told the story to his friends. Mrs. Chen told people at her church. Word got out about the woman who'd asked for an expired cake for her daughter's birthday. And then something incredible happened. Local news picked up the story. Woman working 2 jobs gets help from unexpected angel. The news reporter interviewed Jennifer, Robert, and Mrs. Chen. They talked about kindness. They talked about struggle. They talked about how one small act of generosity can create a ripple effect. The story went viral on social media. And donations started coming in. People who heard the story wanted to help. Not just Jennifer, but the whole idea of it. The idea that there were people out there struggling so hard, working so hard, and all they needed was a small break. A little bit of kindness. By the end of the month, Jennifer had received enough donations to cover her entire nursing school program. She was able to quit her job at the convenience store. She was able to focus on school and on her daughter and on building a better life. But more than that, something else started happening. Robert's bakery became a symbol of kindness. People started coming to him not just for cakes, but because they wanted to be part of what he was doing. They wanted to help. They started a program where customers could buy a cake for someone in need. They could buy a cake for a child whose family couldn't afford one. For a widow living alone. For a sick person in the hospital. The bakery became a place where kindness was more than just an idea. It was a way of life. The moral takeaway. Powerful ending with universal life lessons. 3 years later, Jennifer graduated from nursing school. She became a registered nurse, just like she'd dreamed. She got a better job at the hospital with better pay and better hours. She was able to move into a nicer apartment with Sophie. But she never forgot that Tuesday morning when she'd asked for an expired cake. And she never forgot the kindness of a stranger who understood that asking for help is not shameful. It's brave. On the day Jennifer graduated, she brought Sophie to Sweet Dreams Bakery. Robert had made a special cake for the occasion. It said, "Congratulations, Jennifer," in beautiful script. "I came to your bakery 3 years ago," Jennifer said to Robert, "and I was ashamed. I was ashamed that I had to ask for help. I was ashamed that I couldn't give my daughter everything she wanted. I was ashamed of my poverty." She paused. "But you didn't make me feel ashamed. You made me feel seen. You made me feel like I mattered. Like Sophie mattered. And that's when everything changed. Robert smiled, and his eyes got teary. My wife used to say, he said, that kindness is like planting a seed. You never know how big the tree is going to grow. You just plant it and trust that something beautiful will come from it. He looked at Sophie, who was now 11 years old and helping Jennifer cut the graduation cake. I planted a seed that day, Robert said. But it turned out the seed was planted long before that. It was planted when my wife was alive. It was planted in my heart. I was just watering it. And look what grew. The lesson. There are so many lessons in this story. But the most important one is this. We live in a world where poverty is treated like a personal failure. Where people who struggle are judged as if they're not trying hard enough. Where asking for help is seen as weakness instead of courage. But Jennifer's story shows us the truth. The truth is that sometimes, good people end up in hard situations through no fault of their own. Sometimes, despite working 2 jobs and going to school and doing everything right, life still doesn't give you enough. Sometimes, all you need is someone to look past your circumstances and see your humanity. Robert could have turned Jennifer away. He could have said, that's not a business practice or we don't give things away. He could have focused only on the business side of the bakery. But instead, he chose kindness. And that choice changed not just Jennifer's life. It changed Robert's life too. It reminded him of his wife. It gave him a reason to believe that good things could still happen. It connected him to something bigger than himself. That's what kindness does. It doesn't just help the person receiving it. It transforms the person giving it too. It reminds us all that we're connected. That we're all part of the same human family. That what we do matters. Sophie's story is important too. Sophie will never forget that birthday when her mother came home with a beautiful cake from a baker she'd never met. Sophie will remember that kindness exists. She will remember that sometimes, when you're struggling and you ask for help, beautiful things can happen. And Sophie will grow up knowing that her mother's hard work paid off. That her mother's sacrifice was honored. That good people still exist in the world. This story teaches us something critical. Before you judge someone for asking for help, stop and ask yourself, do you know their whole story? Do you know what they've been through? Do you know how hard they've tried? The answer is almost always no. We rarely know the full story of another person's struggle. That's why kindness has to come first. Judgment can come later, after you know the facts. But kindness should be our default response to human beings who are struggling. Because every person struggling is someone's child. Every person asking for help has worked hard to get to that point. Nobody asks for charity because they want to. They ask because they have to. They ask because they're at the end of their rope. And when we choose kindness in that moment, we don't just help them. We remind them that they matter. We remind them that the world hasn't completely forgotten how to care. We give them hope. And hope is the most powerful thing we can give to someone who's struggling. Another lesson from this story. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness creates the biggest changes. Robert didn't set out to change Jennifer's life. He just gave her a cake. One cake. That's all. But that one cake led to hope. Hope led to Mrs. Chen's generosity. Generosity led to donations. Donations led to Jennifer graduating nursing school. And now Jennifer is out there, as a nurse, helping people every single day. She's using her life to serve others, to heal people, because she was given a chance. That one cake created a ripple effect that will keep going for the rest of Jennifer's life. And for Sophie's life. And probably for generations to come, as Sophie learns from her mother's example what kindness and perseverance can accomplish. This is how change happens in the world. Not through grand gestures. Not through government programs or big organizations, though those things matter too. Change happens through one person choosing to be kind to another person. One person choosing to see the humanity in someone else. One person choosing to help even when it's not their responsibility. The final lesson. Never underestimate the power of being seen. Jennifer didn't just need cake. She needed someone to see her. To see that she was working hard. To see that she loved her daughter. To see that she deserved kindness and respect despite being poor. Robert gave her that. He saw her. And that's what changed everything. In a world where we're constantly being judged, constantly being measured, constantly being told we're not enough. Being truly seen by another person is revolutionary. It's an act of rebellion against a system that wants to reduce people to their circumstances, to their bank account, to their appearance, to their job. Robert rebelled against that system when he chose to see Jennifer as a person worthy of kindness, as a mother worthy of honor, as a human being worthy of respect. And that's what we all need to do. We need to look at the people around us, the people asking for help, the people struggling, the people on the margins of society, and we need to see them. Really see them. See their struggle. See their effort. See their love for their families. See their humanity. Because when we do that, everything changes. When we see people, we treat them differently. We speak to them differently. We help them differently. We build a different kind of world. That's what Robert's wife taught him. That's what Jennifer taught Robert. That's what this story teaches us. We can be the person who sees someone struggling and chooses kindness. We can be the person who gives someone hope. We can be the person who changes another person's life with one simple act of compassion. And the world desperately needs more of us. Closing call to action. I hope you felt everything in that story like we did. I hope you saw yourself in Jennifer, whether you've been the one asking for help or the one giving it. I hope you remembered someone who showed you kindness when you needed it most. If this story moved you, please hit that like button right now. Your support helps us share more stories like this with the world. Stories that remind us who we are. Stories that remind us that kindness still exists. And please subscribe to this channel. Subscribe because you believe that stories matter. Subscribe because you want to see more content about real people doing real good. Subscribe because you want to be part of a community that celebrates compassion, courage, and kindness. Now I want you to share your story in the comments below. Have you ever been shown kindness when you needed it most? Have you ever helped someone and seen their life change? Have you ever been the Jennifer or the Robert in someone else's story? Your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Your story might inspire someone to be kinder. Your words might remind someone that kindness is worth it. Also, share this video with your family and friends. Forward it to someone who needs to remember what kindness looks like. Share it with someone who's struggling. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that there are good people in the world. The algorithm really helps us reach more people when you engage with this video. So please, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for caring about stories like this. Thank you for being the kind of person who believes that one act of kindness can change everything. Because it can. I'll see you in the next video, where we celebrate more people with hearts of gold doing good in this beautiful world. God bless you all. The end.